And down the stretch they come, the surging Ohio State Buckeyes pillaging their way through the rest of the country. Welcome into Juck on Bucks. As we discussed yesterday on the show.
You recently flipped FSU, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is going to be a Buckeye.
Jay Timmons cares, and I think he cares about Florida State.
And Jay committed to Florida State. He sees what a dumpster fire it is.
This is where I was born. I was actually born in Tallahassee.
He is going to end up in the class.
He's the son of a former Noel
Lawrence
legend.
Timmons.
Yeah, Lawrence Timmons.
The number 2 cornerback in the country.
My dad went here. My mom went here.
He'll join Jordan Thomas in this class.
Yeah.
Beasley class with Jordan Thomas and him. Like those are two pretty electric studs.
You know, pressure's a privilege. You know, I'm ready to shine.
Jay Timmons is now a Buckeye, the Pittsburgh kid whose mom and dad met on the campus of Florida State University down in Tallahassee, where he was born, moved to Pittsburgh with his dad, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was a hell of a football player. Jay Timmons has now joined the class of 2026. Man, all those Florida State fans were talking a lot of mess. They were talking a lot of mess in my comments when we lost Corbin Fordham. Corbin Fordham, a 3-star tight end from Jacksonville, got about 10 catches on the year, flipped to Florida State where his father had played as well. I think they would take this trade back if they could, as Jay Timmons, a very highly rated 4-star in the Rivals industry, 111th overall player, number 2 cornerback in the country in Rivals internal ranking. He is their 29 overall player. If he finishes inside that top 32, he will be a 5-star football player. And congratulations to Jay Timmons, the newest Buckeye commit, and to Tim Walton. Tim Walton, look, we'll talk about Tim later, but what's it mean for the class of 2026? Is this the first of several big-time flips we're about to see? I believe it is. And for this Ohio State class that has been much maligned by the fan base, fairly, in my opinion, not on this channel, because I believe that they've done some tremendous evaluations, which I've talked about. We'll hit on them again today. Why not? But this Ohio State football staff, the football staff, has done a tremendous job with what they've had to work with. As far as things that are outside of their control, it's a different conversation, and we can have that one too. But I'm a big believer in a lot of these evaluations. And obviously, Jay Timmons does not take a tremendous amount of, you don't need to be a stud to evaluate that Jay Timmons is a dude. This guy is absolutely a dude. And adding him to this class, I just did some numbers here. Kevin Brown and Emmanuel Ruffin. If the Buckeyes are able to add Kevin Brown and Emmanuel Ruffin, 2 players that I think they now have above a 50% chance with, for Ruffin, I'd say even higher, that would take this class up to a 294, which would currently be the number 5 class in the country. Could they really pull this off? If they did, it would be unbelievable. But a real turn of events for the Buckeyes. Huge props to them, as obviously they're taking full advantage of what's happening around the country. There's turmoil at a lot of places, and it also coincides with one of the stranger recruiting cycles we've ever seen from a financial perspective. But let's start with Jay. Let's start with the player. A Pittsburgh kid, a cornerback who played his entire year at safety and wide receiver, because that's what his team needed, and that's the kind of athlete he is. An electric receiver. What I think you've got here at Ohio State is an impact nickel, a nickel who can cover like an outside corner and hit like a linebacker. I think that's where he fits best. And Jay plays a lot taller than that 5'10 and a half. He looks a lot longer out there. Here's what 24/7's top dog Andrew Ivins had to say about Jay.
Jay Timmons, I think for Florida State, and you kind of touched on this earlier in the show, Bud, like you need kids that care. Jay Timmons cares, and I think he cares about Florida State. He's the son of a former Noel
Lawrence
legend.
Timmons.
Yeah, Lawrence Timmons, 3-phased impact player up there in Pittsburgh, helped Pine Richland win a WPIAL 5A championship as a junior, but I think that's one of the most underrated leagues nationally.
Okay, now for those who don't know, that is the Western Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic League.
I don't know.
It's not intercollegiate, right? Because intercollegiate would be colleges.
Right. I just think the football there continues to improve, and Florida State got ahead of the curve here, right? Jay Timmons was committed to Indiana and SIG. Popped off on the camp circuit, like elite testing numbers. Florida State's able to pull off the flip, and now they're going to have to play defense. Ohio State's sniffing around, but I think whoever Penn State hires, like this would be my first call for Penn State, just because I think Jay Timmons is a really, really good football player. Does it in all three phases of the game. Wide receiver, does it on defense, does it on special teams. I think he's an elite nickel.
That is Western Pennsylvania Interscholastic is the word you're looking for there, bud. Interscholastic Athletic League, and it is a hell of a league. They play good ball in Western PA, and they've produced a whole lot of great football players in Western Pennsylvania, same as Northeast Ohio, and it's kind of one region that is a hotbed for football. Doesn't produce quite as many as it used to, but still a ton of really good football players. Jay Timmons, certainly one of them. And when you watch this guy on defense, he just hunts down the ball carrier, man. He's not, it's not every day you see a defensive back who can hit like this dude. Regularly just laying the wood like a linebacker, like his dad used to. Charles Power of On3 has a similar impression of him. In fact, On3 ranks him quite a bit higher. Rivals. I keep saying On3. They have now switched. They are rivals now. But Charles Power, his comments on him, overall power, Timmons in personality, the play style make him a perfect fit for Ohio State's defense. Jay has the NFL bloodlines, and I think just from watching him play, the play and personality really fits what Ohio State has kind of done on defense. I think you can kind of pass the torch from the current group of stars at Ohio State to Jay Timmons. A guy like Jay Timmons, I think he can kind of carry on that legacy that this current group is building at Ohio State. I think he just has the ability and the mindset from watching him play on Fridays. He's just an alpha, a guy that I think embodies what Ohio State likes on defense. So it's really just a very logical fit when you are aware of the player that he is and understands what Ohio State likes on defense. I think it's a match made in heaven just in terms of the fit. And I agree. Tim Walton, Jordan Thomas, and Jay Timmons is quite the haul. Previously, Devin Sanchez and Jordan Woods, who's a developmental guy. You probably missed out on one in that class, but you get Devin Sanchez, who is elite. The previous class, Aaron Scott and Bryce West. Aaron Scott, a 5-star. Bryce West, a very highly rated 4-star. Before that, Jermaine Matthews and Calvin Simpson-Hunt, who's no longer with the team. But all those guys combined, man, you've got some serious star power out of those dudes. So Walt regularly pulling a 5-star. You got one in the last 3 cycles if Rivals ends up finishing Timmons as a 5-star. That's impressive as it gets, man. And obviously, as a coach, extremely impressive. Jay Timmons and Jordan Thomas still wildly underrated. You know, he's going to the Navy All-American game. And last year at this time, we saw Quincy Porter, who was consistently underrated throughout the cycle, go to, I think, the Army All-American game and just show out. The best wide receiver by far in their practices leading up. I think we'll see the same thing on defense out of Jordan Thomas. His senior season was fantastic. Obviously, he was always the Buckeyes' number one on their board. And that speaks volumes. His size, his athletic ability. They now have 4 5-stars, 4 guys with at least a 5th star from at least one service. And that includes Chris Henry Jr. with multiple. Blaine Bradford's a 247 composite 5-star. Kari Wilder, Sam Greer, 5 stars at Rivals. So 4 5-stars. But when we talk about elite prospects, I like to talk about top 100 players, top 150 players. If we go out to 150, Ohio State has 10 top 150 players in Rivals. That's not even counting Damari Simeon, who I think is absolutely a top 150 guy. So that's the elite talent of this class. Let's talk about the bottom 10. And I talk about the bottom 10 because in looking back at Ohio State's classes of 21, 22, 23, the classes we've seen mature since the transfer portal, we are now seeing that Ohio State is averaging about 2.5 guys out of that bottom 10 that end up becoming contributors. 2.5 guys, very low. So they're focusing really hard on getting good evaluations for that bottom 10 of the class. Guys that either fill a need that they don't have physically on the team, or guys that they think can eventually be a contributor that they can, develop into a guy who can stick around, won't run to the transfer portal, right? Like not stacking 4-stars who think they're going to play in 2 years and then they bolt. But guys who are a little lower ranked that they think that they can develop into a guy who will eventually be on a starter, a guy on a 4-year plan. And when we look at the bottom 10 of this class, I love it. And that's why I've never really had an issue with this class, because I think guys like Tucker Smith, for instance, who is obviously a 3-star guard, but he's from Arizona. Why did Tyler Bowen go to Arizona to get a 3-star guard? Well, it's because he doesn't think he's a 3-star guard. He thinks he's a future Ohio State starter. He just needs some time with him. CJ Sana is in the bottom 10 here. James Laurinaitis went and got CJ Sana as a priority. He thinks CJ Sana is an absolute dude and a future starter. I think he's a potential high-end starter at Ohio State. He is quicker than Sincere Johnson. They're the same size. That says it all right there. And he's new to the position. You got Jaquaden Guilford. Jaquaden Guilford, an incredibly gifted wide receiver, the number one player in the state of Indiana. Shout out Sig. Brian Hartline thinks he can be a starter. I mean, it is what it is. That's all I need to hear. Jaden Ricketts. Jaden Ricketts is an Ohio kid who is a burner. We don't know what he's going to be as a wide receiver because they don't throw the ball in high school much where he goes. It's in Pataskala, whatever you guys tell me the name of that town is. But the dude's a hell of an athlete. We'll put it that way. Can he be a polished receiver? Who knows? Cam Brickle. He may not end up in the class, but he's certainly a guy that's got some potential, a 300-pound kid with some twitch. He's not had a great senior season. Don't know about that one. Brock Boyd, you guys know how I feel about Brock. Shout out Brock Boyd and the Boyd family. Dad's a coach. The Carroll Dragons. We're big supporters here at Juck on Bucks of the Carroll Dragons, and I'm the president of the Brock Boyd fan club. I think Brock Boyd is a top 3 wide receiver in the state of Texas. Brock Boyd thinks he's the best wide receiver in the state of Texas. That's a confident kid, and he's confident because he's put in the work. And when you look at this kid play wide receiver, he is so polished. He's college ready right now. He can walk in anywhere in the country and win a starting role, but he chose to go to Ohio State because he wants to play with the best and against the best. That says it all to me, man. Brock Boyd, going to be a stud, going to be a high-level Ohio State starter at some point, going to be an NFL wide receiver. He's the quickest wide receivers of all these guys, by the way. Quicker than Chris Henry, quicker than Caden Dixon-Wyatt, quicker than Jaquaden Guilford. Not quite as fast as Jaden Ricketts, but he is so polished. So big fan of Brock Boyd. That's a massive hit. I think that'll prove out for sure. Luke Fahey. Luke Fahey is a kid who is between Chavian St. Clair and Brady Edmonds and never supposed to be the starter, you would think, in your master plan. You would think that torch would go from Tavian and he's off to the NFL, and Brady Edmonds, your next NFL stud, is taking over. Luke Fahey is going to try to say not so fast here. And Luke Fahey might just be able to do that because Luke Fahey just put up 5 touchdowns and 500 yards last weekend. The kid can absolutely sling it. He's incredibly accurate, got a lot of arm strength. I think that he's a dude, man. He's just a little undersized. And if he wasn't, I think that he for sure would be a higher rated kid than he is. Even still, man, a great guy to have on your team. And he grew up a Buckeye fan. Parents met at Ohio State in the Ohio State library. So love that. That's actually 2 California quarterbacks back to back with Fahey and Edmonds who grew up Buckeye fans, which is cool. Buckeye adjacent, we'll call him. Then you've got Jameer Perez. Jameer Perez, not a guy who's super highly rated, not super quick, but what he brings is something that you don't have. You don't got anybody else like him on the roster. He is a true big body one tech, and that right there makes him an absolutely got to have. And the Buckeyes got him. Happy about that one. Kamari Bing, nothing but a late riser. He's a late riser, 6 foot 190. And the way we saw Ohio State pursue Kamari Bing after viewing his senior film, which I can't find much of at all to be able to really look at him myself, tells us what they think of him. And then the final member of the class, Landry Breed, flip from Mentor, kid from Mentor, flip from NC State. You know who was sitting at the bottom of the class a couple years ago? The very last guy, Austin Saraveld. Austin Saraveld, the starting left tackle of the future national championship Buckeyes, and a guy who's going to have a long NFL career as a guard in the NFL. So, yeah, Landry Breed, could he be a starter? Maybe, maybe not, but I like to have him in the offensive line room. And Tyler Bowen, definitely going to start bringing in bigger offensive line classes than we're used to seeing. I think we'll finish at 5 here this year. I think we'll be at 5 minimum every year moving forward, which I love. This roster is just loaded, man, and more talent coming aboard this year. The Buckeyes are doing it like nobody else. They're doing it better than everybody else, even this year, without the resources that everybody else had. And the ability to have the flexibility to go about this class like that. We've never seen them go about this before. We've never seen them do this under Ryan Day, but they waited and they pounced. They pounced all over the country, took advantage at every school that had issues. Every single one of the helmets behind me. We got guys from all of these schools, and this is the wall of shame right here. Wisconsin, they're working on Amari Latimer. North Carolina, they're working on Jimmy Frisco. Clemson, they just got former Clemson, Dre Quinn, former Clemson commit, coming up to visit. Florida State, Jay Timmons. Nobody from Michigan State. Florida, CJ Brunna, cornerback CJ Brunna is a Florida commit. They're trying to get him to join Jay Timmons and Jordan Thomas. That looks like it could happen. He's coming up for UCLA. Auburn, not so sure about Auburn yet. LSU just offered Darius McKinley, trying to get Darius McKinley and his brother Dominic McKinley. Penn State, obviously Kevin Brown, a potential player that's going to be in this class as well. Tennessee, he's not on the hot seat or anything, but Tennessee fans are not very happy with Josh Heupel. Legend Bay, obviously Legend Bay, I think is most likely the next ball that we're going to hear drop, as Legend Bay going to commit to the Buckeyes here real soon. So that's where we're at, guys. And every school has decided how they're going to operate in the new system with the new settlement. There are some schools that have said we're going to operate clean, exactly by the book. The rules aren't technically published, but they all know what the rules are. There are others who are just kind of doing it, and there are some who are full-fledged saying, I'm not doing any of that. You can come catch me if you can, but I don't think this is going to stick, and it's not going to slow down my process. In fact, I'm going to take advantage of the fools that are paying attention to this. It's clear who those schools are that are doing that. Ohio State's not. They're playing it by the book, which means the football team and staff has been kind of handcuffed as to what other places around the country have been able to do. And to be able to come out of this class like this with those restrictions, it's fantastic. Now, as far as paying players, every school does it in a couple of ways, right? Every school at least gives them revenue share. And in addition to the revenue share, they offer them the opportunity to work with something like the Buckeye Sports Group that is facilitating them in the community to get third-party NIL deals. Ross Bjork thinks that's the future of the sport. Who can be the best at this, facilitating third-party NIL deals? And of course, he's absolutely right if this House settlement and all this stuff works, right? If the rules are actually followed, if Congress codifies this into law, then he's right. It's the third-party deals who can expand those the most. But if he's not right about the deal working and the whole thing gets blown up with the House settlement and these rules never get followed, then we're back to square one, and guaranteed NIL deals are king. Now, right now, you couldn't offer guaranteed NIL deals with the new system because of NIL Go, because the deals had to be vetted. So you can't tell somebody, look, you're going to get $50,000 if you come to Ohio State from us in NIL, because they're third-party deals, and we don't know who's going to pay you outside NIL deals. So we have no idea. But there's a way around it. They created a loophole by allowing the collectives to operate as a business, which means now I can tell a player, if I'm Ohio State, I am going to offer you $50,000 in NIL in addition to your revenue share. And the way I pay that player is when he comes to school at Ohio State, I've now got a year to work him off $50,000. And I'm doing this by constantly holding things to basically employ the players, coaches, clinics, meet and greets. I have a production company that produces videos behind the scenes, and I get to pay the players for each of those. Now, each one of these little individual deals goes through NIL Go, and I just work off the tally. I owed him 50 grand. I've got him 30 paid off, and here we go. Each guy, there's a tally, and they're working it off, essentially. I'm creating them jobs. I'm creating them gigs, hawking merchandise for the collective on their social media, et cetera. And every one of those goes through NIL Go in a deal. And that's how other places are doing this with guaranteed NIL deals. Those who want to use this loophole. Ohio State's not using this loophole. They're not getting creative with this at all. They are simply using the Buckeye Sports Group, and they're using NIL or revenue share. That's it. So to be able to do what they're doing without giving guaranteed NIL deals, which so many other schools are, it's tremendous. It's a huge testament to the football program, to the employees of the football program, but it is a hindrance nonetheless. And if they can start operating with that little loophole that others are using, things will get even better. But, we'll see what happens moving forward with that. As we look at this class now, Kevin Brown and Emmanuel Ruffin, those are the two that a top 5 class could potentially hinge on. They're the guys with point values that really move the needle here. And we're talking about Emmanuel Ruffin just decommitted from Colorado, Missouri or Ohio State, and Kevin Brown, West Virginia or Ohio State. One of those two, I think, is a lock. If you ask me, like, oh, look, you can only pick one. Who is it going to be? If I had to make a prediction, I would say Emmanuel Ruffin is the more likely of the two, though I think they're both more than a 50% chance here. So Kevin Brown wouldn't surprise me at all. I think it's more than likely he's a Buckeye. Emmanuel Ruffin, I think it's even more than likely he's a Buckeye. Things are rolling. I'm fired up. I hope you're fired up. This is a beautiful class. The Buckeyes are going to West Lafayette to dust off Purdue at 1 p.m. on Saturday. I will be here live for that. I'll be on the post-game show over at Buckeye Huddle. What a day it's been. What a season it's been. Let's hope that Isaiah West can get rolling this week. I'd like to see him get 10 carries and 150 yards. That'd be fantastic. So I will talk to you guys later. Have a great day. Juck 'em Bucks out.